Okay, in this lesson, I want to go through the 5 primary types of launches in product launch formula and just give you a brief explanation of each one and show you how they tie together so you know which one to use first and then the next one, depending on where you are in your business. And this isn't like a cookie cutter where everyone will go through the same process and go through the same sequence. So just want to explain some of these, and then you'll see a little further how they tie together in one of my next videos, which is the circle of awesome, which is really awesome. So here, and I have primary right here. I want to focus on that word. These are the 5 primary types of launches that we've been developing and using for 20 years. And they're super awesome, but I do keep on, it's just nonstop. We keep on developing new things, new ways to use these, new variations of these. But these are the 5 primary types. So number 1 is, this is an awesome one, the seed launch. And the seed launch is one that is often overlooked by people. And it's one you can come back to over and over, even though it's often thought of as like the beginner launch. Now, the seed launch is great when you have no list and no product. It's how you get your first list. So it's how you get your first list, and it's how you get your first product. So with the seed launch, what you do is you make an offer that you're going to teach a class of some sort of class, a seminar, whatever you want to call it. And it's a series of teleseminars or webinars or live casts. And before each one, you do a quick survey. You find out what people need to know about whatever that subtopic is. You take your main topic, you divide it up into maybe 3, 4, 5 subtopics, and you do a call on each one. So the really cool thing here is that you learn how to present, how to teach your material. This is how I started off with PLF. My very, very first version of product launch formula, when I'd been doing launches for a long time, but I didn't necessarily know how to teach launches, I did a seed launch. And I did it as a series. I promised 5 calls. I ended up, because I like to over-deliver, I did like, I don't know, probably 8, 9, or 10 calls. But those calls are interactive. And that's where you learn to teach. You learn how to create your product. And it can be super, super powerful. And in doing so, you record everything, and then you end up with a product. And you can do this with a very, very small list. And usually through word of mouth, you start to build a bigger list. So this is, if you're just starting out, you want to start out with a seed launch. Now, a really key thing here is it's also, anytime you want to create a new product, you can go back and do a seed launch. So I did this where I think it was 10 years into this business, 10 years into my current business, and I wanted to create a new product. It was a product about seed launches. So I did a seed launch for a product that I called the Seed Launch Deep Dive. And then I went really, really deep into the seed launch. Now I'm going to teach you the seed launch in PLF. Seed Launch Deep Dive was just like a whole big course just on seed launches. But it was amazing how much, even though I've been teaching how to do seed launches for 10 years, how much I learned in that process. So it's great if you're just starting out, but even if you're advanced, don't underestimate the power of the seed launch. The number 2 is the internal launch. So the internal launch, you've probably seen this. It's the 3 pieces of pre-launch content into some type of a sales video or a sales letter. It's the classic sideways sales letter. This is the core skill in PLF, is getting the internal launch right. And it's when you do this right, you become super attractive. You get you massive authority in the market. But the key is you're doing it just to your list. So usually you start out at the seed launch and you start to build a bit of a list, and then you do the internal launch. So that's the general sequence within PLF land. Is first you do a seed, then you do an internal. The next one is where things really, really blow up. It's what we call the joint venture launch, or JV, or affiliate launch. So this one is where you take the work that you did in your internal launch and now you bring in affiliates. You bring in affiliates and all of a sudden everything gets bigger. The list gets bigger, the results get bigger, the spotlight gets bigger, your positioning gets bigger. This is like pouring gasoline on a fire. It's just, this is where you can grow a big list quickly. It's amazing. And I do one of these a year, every year, and we get massive, amazing results. But generally you want to do the internal launch first. And this is where you figure out your basic sideways sales letter, and then you roll it out to joint venture partners. Now, the fourth type of launch, so this is sort of like, this is the standard PLF way, is if when you're starting out, you usually do a seed, then internal joint venture. Not always. I mean, when I first did PLF, I did a seed launch and then I jumped right into the joint venture launch. But I had a lot of experience before that. So then, I mean, that's standard. Now, the next one is the one a lot of people never see. It's the quick launch. And the quick launch is just like it says, it's super quick. It's super simple. It's super easy. It's a way to bring in a quick cash infusion with not much work at all. It's a favorite of mine. It's a favorite of our PLF owners, but it's usually not your first, even though it sounds simple and it is, and it's easy, it's usually not your first one if you're just starting out, because to make a quick launch work, you really need to have an offer, some type of a product, and you really need to have a list. And so if you already have a list and you already have a product and you're coming to the PLF fairly well, you're well situated, you're already in business, you can always do a quick launch. And it's just so easy. It's usually email based and you can make a lot of money quick, hence the quick launch. So this is fundamentally a different style of launch than what you're doing up here with the sideways sales letter and in the internal and joint venture. It's very story based. It's generally very email based, and it's quick and easy, big cash flow. Okay, so number 5 is evergreen. The evergreen launch, and this is something I call it EG for evergreen. This is it's advanced. It's advanced, and it's not something, I don't think we developed this until, I don't know, PLF was 10 or 12 years old. But basically, it's an evergreen launch is where you're basically always in launch. For the new people coming into your world, for the new people joining your list, they go through their own private evergreen launch. So you take your internal launch and you basically rearrange it so that when people join your list, they go through their own launch. So the beautiful thing about the evergreen launch is that it makes your cash flow consistent. So if you start doing these launches, and maybe you do 2 or 3 internal launches a year and 1 joint venture a year, then your business goes along like this. You're going along, and the sales will put the sales in green. You'll get your big spike here, and then your launch is done, and you go along, and then you get a big spike here, and then you get a big spike here. What evergreen does is it gives you consistent income. You can still do your other launches, but evergreen gives you consistent income because you've always got new leads coming in, and they're always going through the launch. Now, I will again, it's an advanced strategy, putting this together. So the process is you want to start up here, you want to get your internal launch right, maybe you do a joint venture launch, and once you get this right, then you can turn it into evergreen, and then it gives you the nice consistent flow. The really beautiful thing about evergreen is it works well with paid traffic. So if you're running advertising, whether it's at Facebook or Google or Instagram or wherever, if you're running paid traffic, now you can run paid traffic into your evergreen and get consistent results. And that's a great way to build your list and build your business and do it in a super sustained way. So these are the 5 primary types. Again, primary. We keep on adding new types. Well, we keep on adding new tweaks to these. But over the years, I've been teaching, these first 4 I've been teaching since the very start in 2005. Evergreen, I think we've been teaching that, I don't know. I can't remember when. That was probably 2011 or 2012 we started teaching that. But these are the 5 primary types, and each one will fit at a different time for you and for a different business. So scroll down and leave me a comment. Tell me, where do you think you'll start with your first launch?